Well, the closing session is different from the previous ones in two ways. One, about 15 minutes have been taken away because of the delays, so that the pressure is upon us to wrap it all up by 6. So we'll try really hard. And two, unlike the moderators in previous sessions, knowing that the audience is almost all English speakers, as well as the presentations without any Korean translations, I think we should just go ahead and communicate in English alone. Okay, we have 3 presenters, and the first one is Dr. Dong Quang Huy. He's a professor at Thai Nguyen University of Economics and Business in Vietnam. His presentation will be followed by Mr. Chawananka Omswayo from Malawi. And the last but not least, the presentation will be delivered by Mr. Gutu Abraham Tolosa from Ethiopia. Okay. The theme of this session, sharing the experiences of the Semaul Undong, I think is quite befitting because in the immediate previous session, the top experts on Semaul Undong from the Korean side gave their ground level experiences, a review of the completed as well as ongoing Semaul Undong multi-year projects in Myanmar, and then Lao PDR, and the ongoing project by a field practitioner in Sri Lanka. Okay. Now, we move on to Vietnam, and Professor Dong Quang Huy is going to talk about new rural development in Vietnam, differentiation with Semaul Undong. Okay. The rural development, the new rural development NRD program in Vietnam, we all know was inspired by Semaul Undong experiences, and he will also touch on how the program overall is different from the typical Semaul Undong projects. Okay, if you're ready, yes.
So, 안녕하세요.
Good afternoon.
Today I'm very happy to be here with you. Very beautiful weather in South Korea and sharing about some Vietnamese experience. My name is Dr. Đoàn Quang Huy, and I come from Thai Nguyen University of Economics and Business Administration. This time actually it 12 years I came back to Korea since 2011 when I started my master here. So it's quite a long time to see my second hometown. Today I am very happy to start with the first presenter in the section 4, and it's very late in the evening, but I'm very happy to see all of you in here and still full of the energy. So I hope that we're going to have a very intensive discussion about the Semaul Undong. First, I would say thank you very much for Semaul Undong Foundation because of the amazing support for Vietnam to reduce poverty and also increase the living standard of our countries. I hope that in the future, the foundation keep continued support our countries because even we achieved some significant improvement, but still a lot of things need to be revised and a lot of things need to be reformed. And we hope that international cooperation, as we discussed in session 3, is also very important for our development. When I first come here, there is one word I'm very impressed with, is here, is well-being. Actually, my PhD working about the well-being, so I'm really love this word. And you know that well-being is explained about how people live and how they feel. And more important, that well-being we divide in two branches. The first one we call that objective well-being. We're talking about the living condition of the people. And the second is the subjective well-being. We're talking about some perception, some happiness, satisfaction of the people in their life. And the more important, to achieve subjective well-being, at first we need to achieve objective well-being. That's why right now, a lot of the government and international organizations, we try to do our best to build infrastructure to improve the living condition of the poor countries, to make them better. And sooner or later, when objective well-being will be better, they will have a better subjective well-being. And I would say that the South Korean economic model is a very good one. And actually, Vietnam government will also learn a lot from you. I'm very impressed with the chairborne model that thing. When we want to develop, we really need some strong point to make some important foundation establishment for our whole economy. And more important, that South Korea also, government also have Samuel Undong, that's also very important program to support the poor people.
I'm
right?
sorry to interrupt, Professor Hui,
Yes.
but I'd like to kindly request that you focus on main points of your presentation.
Okay, okay,
So
thank
that
you.
please try and limit your presentation no more than
Sorry.
maybe 15 to 20 minutes,
Yeah, yeah.
so we can have some time left. for
Yes,
some
don't worry, I'm going to finish
lively
everything within
discussions with
15
the floor.
minutes. Right.
Okay, thank you.
So, you know that with Vietnam government, we also have a very important slogan that independent freedom and happiness. So that's why we always think the same with the South Korean government, that we don't want to let anyone behind. So that's why we build a program, follow the South Korean Samuel Undong. We call that is a new rural development program. It also includes 11 objectives and also 19 criteria to set up what is the mean that is a new rural communities in Vietnam. And actually, we also spend a lot of money for program development, especially for some important area. So you can see in the slide, we spend a lot of money, but there are a weak point that you can see that all the money is, most of them come from credit. That's a serious problem with our country right now, because you know that if we can use money from community and from domestic, it would be better. But in Vietnam right now, we borrow a lot of money from international institutions. And a new rural development program, we also focus on rural transportation. And you can see with more than 50%, and after recurrent spending composition, we also focus on value chain products, and also maintain a work after investment, and also vocational training, and another very important thing. So right now in Vietnam, I would say that infrastructure is so very important issues, and we try to figure out, because you know that according to a lot of economic theories, that infrastructure influence significant to the economic development. And you can see this one is a result of a new rural development program of Vietnam up to 2020s. And even we try, we also receive a lot of significant improvement, but you can see that not all of criteria were so finished. So, for example, like with the communes and meet the new rural development standard, we only achieved 60.63%. And another province, another indicator we also not achieved as we expected. And we also focus a lot of infrastructure and rural economy, which I think that is very important with our rural economy nowadays. And you can see here, this one is a reason by a new rural development program by region. So in the rest, river data is a good one, but in northern mountain, that also a really serious problem. And yesterday I also discussed with our president that he thinks that maybe Vietnam don't need support from Samuel Undong anymore. I think that it's not really why, because if you can see that here is the rest river data, so it's a good one, but we also have another area that also need a lot of support. For example, like in the central highlands or in the northern mountains. This one is also a serious problem about the Vietnam economy right now because it's not equal development within different area. So with the city center, it's okay, but in the rural area, we still a lot of problem. And even with the rural areas, they also have a different diversify. For example, like in the mountainous area with a lot of the ethical person, we got really trouble in there. So that's why I hope that in the future, maybe Samuel Undong also have some project to support the northern mountainous area and the central highlands also is a good area right now in Vietnam. And we keep continue with target 2025, and we also move to second step of some of the program right now. And we also, at the moment, try to implement it's a lot of community district because it's a hope until the end of 2025 we also achieve what we expected. And follow this way, we also deliver a lot of content for the program. By zoning and infrastructure, we invest to economic improvement, especially about poverty reduction, education, medical, and the culture, environment, public administration, social political organization, security, and supervision. And you can see in the slides, this one is some decisions that our government had made to improve the rural area right now. And we still need a lot of the money for the second step of the rural development. You can see that we also set up a lot of tasks to improve our programs. Like we try to focus on the effective governance, and also we focus on the community raising awareness, focus on training, how to use the resources efficiencies, inspection supervisor. And especially, I would like to introduce with you two very important programs in Vietnam. We also do very well. The first program is one community, one product. What that mean? It means that we try to be within one community strategy product. So we provide some support, including infrastructure and training, to make this product become strategic product, become, how can I say, that's top level product to support, improve the living standard of this area. And actually it's worked very well. And you can see that even in my province, you know, I come from Thái Nguyên, and my province, in my province, the tea also is very important and famous product. And when this program, one community, one product, we also try to make the upgrade to international level, and it's worked very much. So with this program, we focus on upgrade product, try to find a good product to export to over the world and make it very good brand. Follow the integration, focus on the scrap related, some training, and especially integration with international economy. We also set up a lot of solution and content. I hope that in the breaking time, we also have a long time, more time we will discuss about it. And the second program I want to introduce with you is a rural tourism. It also work very well in Vietnam right now, because you know that we have a lot. In Vietnam, we have 70% the people work in agriculture. Even agriculture areas cover only 17% of our GDP, but still a lot of the labor working in this area. So that's why rural tourism also is determined one of very important the business model is the rural. And we also did it very good because right now we have so a lot of different rural area tourism also very famous right now. For example, in Thái Nguyên city, we build La Bằng communes, and it's worked very well. Even it's start from very first beginning. And we also do a lot of products to support our solutions and mission. For example, like strengthening intercooperation between the international cooperation and also the government agencies. Because you know that especially with agriculture, the cooperation between the people and the government and international organization is also very important to make it potentially to a success. So compare between Vietnam Rural Development Program and Samuel Undong's, I think that we have a lot of the similarity, because actually the Vietnam New Rural Development will also take in spirit from the patronage policies. So we have the same management from top to controls, and money is mostly come from government and also some communities. And we also have a try to focus on very important criteria, for example, like building the rural road, bridge, economic development, increasing the income, or maybe improve the culture and spirit life. And the government also support resources to a certain extent to try to make the rural area become better. And both of the country also do the same thing, especially with rural women plays very important role for building the rural area right now. And I think that's more than that the role of the woman also increasing. However, between two countries, we also have some a different thing. The first thing is that about the financial sources. In South Korea, that resources building rural area mainly based on community, but in Vietnam, we are mostly based on the government. And starting for so different, and especially about the priority strategy. In government, you focus on not distinguishing between poor and the rich village. But in Vietnam, we also give us some priority poor community, because we think that the poor people need to focus more compared with another the village. And more important, that the supervisor system also in South Korea is a very good one. In Vietnam, maybe our idea is very good, but in reality, when we work it, it's a lot of problem. However, I also have some lesson I want to share with you. The first thing I want to say is that to make the Samoan Undang become more efficient in the future, first we need to support an effort from all anti. For example, like think about the farmer, the poor people in the village. I think that at first they need to try the best, because we do the best, we do a lot of things for them, but they do not understand the importance. They do not understand that the self-help also very important. It's very difficult for us. And also it's need a lot of support from government, from some technical support, technical assistance. I think that it need to effort own and ties as a corporation also very important. The second, I think that the digital Samoan Undang is also very important. With me right now, I think that digitalization is also the key point for the future, right? And without the digitalization, also cannot cope with the development of the world economy right now. In Vietnam, we try our best for it, but I hope that the Samoan Undang Foundation will support it. Right now, you know that I also have project about this one, and when I go to a lot of the village, I see that the people right now, they really need something new, something belong to technologies to support them, because right now, information is very important. And today, within this forum, I also have an idea, and if the foundation can support Vietnamese government and also our programs are also very important. You know that when we do the survey for the poor people and the farmer, they said that this one is very necessary, that we need a mobile app, including everything. What I mean, you know that right now that information is very important. Information is, we can consider as a very important resource for development right now and in the future. So with this mobile app, it will support, it will like a bridge between the seller and the farmer. So the farmer, they can find everything on the mobile app, for example, like about the price of the input, the price of the products, how about the technical support, and even about the bank can join it up to provide the farmer also ability to access some financial support. So I believe that if we can build this up, it's also very good for the poor people and even for as a community, because this app will be including everything. And right now, you know, the good point that in Vietnam, right now, everybody can easy to access to the internet. Right? We have internet in everywhere. And if we have a mobile app like this, the people can access the app and they can have everything they want. That's also the good point. And this one also a very important thing that all the farmers suggest us when we have a lot of conversation with it, especially in the mountainous area. So because we do not have the time, so thank you very much for the listening, and I hope that our program and our foundation will develop more in the future. And the last word I want to say is that together we can bring the world better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Hui, for keeping to the time limit. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, the next presenter is Mr. Chawananga Umsuwayo from Malawi. He's currently working on his master's in Semaul International Development at the Park Chung-hee School of Policy in Semaul at Yeongnam. The title of his talk is Enhancing Long-Term Viability of Village Projects, Lessons from Korea's Semaul Undong Experience.
안녕하세요, 여러분.
Good afternoon, everyone.
It indicates enhancing long-term viability of village projects, lessons from Korea's Semaul Undong experience. So the previous speakers have presented on projects, and not much has been said about enhancing the sustainability of these projects. So my humble task this afternoon is to present to you how we can make these projects sustainable and what lessons we can learn from Semaul Undong. So the agenda is in form of that outline. I'll start by defining what the project is. Then I'll further go to defining what a village project is, because now we'll be focusing on village projects. Then I'll also go further to define what sustainability is. Then thereafter, I'll share an experience from Malawi through a project which is currently underway in its second phase called Agicom. Then I'll finish with lessons that we can draw from Semaul Undong. So, a refresher. What is a project? Jeffrey Pinto, who is a project management guru, defined a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or a result. He further goes on to say, projects are characterized by their limited duration, specific goals, and unique requirements. So, briefly, a project by the end of the day has to produce a deliverable, or in form of a product or a service. And a project also have to have a duration, which is a starting point and a finishing point. And it has to have a specific purpose, which can be in the form of a goal. So narrowing it down to the topic of the day, which is the village projects. What is a village project? Village projects are endeavors that are designed and carried out to address the needs of villagers. Now we're focusing on a specific niche, which is the village. And these projects are initiated by the villagers themselves, or sometimes external organizations such as government agencies, NGOs, international development organizations. And the other characteristics is these projects can vary depending on the size. Others can be on a small scale and a large scale. For instance, a community-led project to build a new school in a village where there is no school. So, sustainability, which is another core for this presentation. What is sustainability according to OECD? OECD defines sustainability as the extent to which the net benefits of the intervention continue or are likely to continue. Yes, we've delivered this project, but what are the benefits that this project is going to give, and what is the time frame? Is it in long term? The functionality and intended benefits in that regard. So what makes a project sustainable or not? So these are the factors that we managed to find out. Community involvement. A village project needs to have a full support of the community with regards to involvement. So a good project, obviously, will be designed with extensive community consultation, resulting in a strong sense of local ownership. A bad one with regards to sustainability only focuses on top-down approach, which is like foisting down on the throat of the community members the projects which maybe not necessarily needed in that particular aspect. Further to that, resource management. A good project with regards to sustainability needs to focus on, puts into consideration the usage of local resources efficiently and plans for their replenishment. And the opposite, you know, it is not a good one with regards to sustainability. We say we want to build a school block, then we obviously we need roofing and whatnot. So we use timber, you know, cut down trees without even having a plan to replenish those trees. And furthermore, capacity and skills. We need to invest, for us to sustain these projects, we need to invest in training the local individuals by building capacity within these communities. See, we deliver these projects, or these projects happen in the community, then we leave them there. We leave the community members without having that technical, maybe expertise, so that maybe when they are in lack of it, they have to contact us still, which does not give a good picture of a good project with regards to sustainability. Further to that, monitoring and evaluation. Yes, implementing regular monitoring and evaluation to assess the progress and the progress of the projects and make necessary adjustments. Yes, during the project, we need regular assessment where we need to know where we are lacking and where we need to improve for us to strike sustainability. And we also need to factor in environmental impact. When we're implementing these projects, village projects, we need to be environmentally conscious. We need to put in consideration as to if this project is going to negatively impact the environment or it's going to positively impact the environment. So a good one, obviously, will positively impact the environment. Last one on this slide is the financial consideration. Yes, we need funds, but then we cannot entirely or solely rely on external funding. We need to beef up ourselves. So a good one with regards to sustainability, a project has to identify long-term funding sources, or whether it's going to be financially self-sufficient. So, as I said in my previous slide, in the first place, I'll share with you this project which is happening in Malawi and why I think this project is sustainable. So, for context, Agrico is an agricultural project run by Malawi government with the funding from World Bank. So the sole objective of this project is to increase commercialization of agriculture, since Malawi relies largely on subsistence farming. So I wanted to show you the video, but then with the time constraint, I will not be able to show you the video as to the progress that this project has made. But why did I cherry-pick this project to say that it has a prospect of sustainability? This project has farmers that are encouraged to form cooperatives. With regards to sustainability, we all know that this is going to form a community participation and involvement. And further to that, these cooperatives are required to contribute 30% from the individual farmers. And the remainder of the amount is funded by the main funder, which is World Bank. Why is this sustainable? This helps to foster a sense of project ownership. It gives that sense of belonging. Quickly, further to that, farmers are trained in business farming to build capacity. That is capacity building, which is also an important ingredient with regards to sustainability in projects. Lastly, farmers have to write their own proposals for the project tailored with their needs to ensure community involvement. So it's more or less like a bottom-up approach. Farmers are able to decide on their own as to what are the needs and what needs to be done with regards to their community needs in the community. So how can we, what are the lessons that we can draw from Semaundong? So as we all know, Semaundong was built on these three spirits, three spirits: diligence, which is hard work; self-help, the sense of relying on yourselves; and cooperation, the sense of the community coming together and for the common goal. So the first lesson that we can draw from Semaundong is government support, which also my Lenin did cause a big push. So in the initiation phase of Semaundong, literature has told us that in 1971, the Semaundong was launched. When Semaundong was launched, the South Korean government provided each of the nation's villages 333,267 villages with that number of bags of cement. This was to push, to kickstart the project. So this somehow helped in sustaining this project. Not to mention the...
Sorry to interrupt, but I think you should quickly move on to the main parts of your presentation.
Okay, I'll try.
Time limitation.
Not to mention about the loans that these villages receive from government. Further to that, community engagement and participation, I've already hinged on that. Leadership and grassroots initiatives. So we cannot overemphasize the essence of leadership. During Semaundong, we had, village leaders. What lesson can we draw from these leaders? These local leaders played a pivotal role in the success of Semaundong. They were responsible for training, and mobilizing community members for the projects or initiatives. Application. If we are to train our leaders in these communities, for development, we should be able to yield results with regards to sustainability. Adoption of down to up approach. Villagers were encouraged to identify their own needs and priorities and work together to address them. With the support of government, they provide some financial and technical assistance. But the main driving force behind the movement was the villagers themselves. So we need to embrace that approach. What are the advantages? It actually promotes informed decisions, better team morale, and more room for creativity. Monitoring and evaluation. Yes, this is quite important because now we cannot be implementing these projects without tracking, as I mentioned earlier on. So what is the lesson that we can draw from this one? Continuous evaluation during Semaundong was integral, and Semaundong's adaptability and success to how do we apply this? By implementing regular monitoring and evaluation mechanisms for projects. Diversified income, we cannot be relying on one source of income. We need to use other sources, as we can see in the picture. women creating some baskets, others in the factories, during off-season, farming off-season. Symbolic instruments for collective identity. Yes, as we all know, Semao was nicely branded, for communication's sake, to transmit or dispense information to the communities. Like the essence of branding or the symbols was that another essence is that it actually created that that relationship between the community members and the project itself. Because now when you wake up in the morning and you hear a Semao song, you would know what to do on that particular day, to stay diligent, to stay cooperative, and so forth. Self-reliance and co-funding, we cannot be relying on external funding. We need to fend for ourselves. And the external funding has to be secondary. Infrastructure. Yes, we need infrastructure for the betterment of for the smooth implementation of these projects. So we need to prioritize essential infrastructure in village projects. Reliable infrastructure boosts economic activities, connects communities, and improves overall standards. And lastly, rewards and recognition. So we need to, when we work, we need to be rewarded. So during Semao Ndong, there was that a sense of competition between villages, and the best villages would visit the Blue House and get rewarded for their hard work. So we need to create that sense of competition within our villages, for us to enhance sustainability of this project. So we need to set up a recognition and reward system to incentivize communities, celebrate success, as I've already mentioned, which can motivate other communities to adopt similar practices. In conclusion, let me conclude with a quote by Peter Drucker, who was an American management guru, that says, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." Now, the future of village projects lies in the sustainability. What is the main point of implementing these projects without factoring in the long-term benefits, if it's going to offer us the long-term benefits? With that, let me thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. The next presenter is Mr. Gutu Abraham Tolosa from Ethiopia, and his topic is the role of external and internal funding in village development, implications on ownership and equity. Okay. Now, the previous talk was about sustainability, and this one is about ownership and equity, raising the sense of those in terms of maximizing cost effectiveness of projects. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Gutu Abraham Tolosa, and I'm from Ethiopia, and currently I'm a student at the Yangnan University, PSPS. So, today I'm going to present on the topic of the role of external and internal funding in the village development and its implication on ownership and equity. So as objective, firstly I will look at what it means when we say external and internal funding sources and what is their role in the village development. And also, how does this source of funding impact the ownership and the equity in the village development? And how can we strengthen the sense of ownership? And what type of lesson we can draw from Semao Ndong to enhance ownership and equity in the village development? So, as an introduction, in the village development, securing financial sources is a big challenge. So this is because of the limited sources And nowadays, because of the intense competition, shifting donors' priorities and the need for sustainability. So when we say external funding, it comes from governments, international organizations, NGOs, and internal funding is community contribution, local assets, and the spirit of self-reliance. So ownership in the sense of village development signifies the sense of responsibility, involvement that community member feels toward their projects and initiatives. It is about empowering to become an architect of their own progress. And the equity embodies the principle of fairness, inclusivity, and ensuring that the development of the projects reach everyone, especially those who are marginalized in the village. So, as you all are aware of, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal, SDG 2 specifically, we need more financing that we are getting the rural development nowadays. So in this report from ISF Agricultural Report, you can see that the current articulated demand and the current supply in the sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. So what is the role of this funding? So to address this multifaceted challenge in a village development, it requires a huge financial resource. So both external and internal funding plays a huge role in addressing these problems. So external funding sources actually comes from government grants, as I said before, international donors and NGOs. And this external funding can provide village with the resource they need to invest in a large and a more complex projects and the big infrastructures such as healthcare and education. What are these benefits of external source funded or externally funded projects? They actually finance a resource for infrastructure, provide the capital of building and improving infrastructure in the village. And also sometimes these external funders come with expertise in a field in agriculture, in health, in education, and the community development. So when we look at the Samul period from 1970 to 1979, the Korean government supported the village development initiatives. So the fund, the external fund I'm referring to during this period was coming from the government. So the central government actually provided the largest source of external funding for this period of time. So these grants were used to support a wide range of projects, including the infrastructure in development, in agriculture, and education. So as you see in the left side of this table, there was a government support from 1979 to 1971 to 79. Now, the internal fundings are actually the funding that community saves nowadays. Many, or during in some old period, many villages have established their community savings and their cooperatives, and also revenue that collects from village enterprises and a donation from villages. So what are the advantages of this internal funding? Firstly, they promote self-reliance and sustainability of the projects. And also they give the community more control on their own development. And they can also enhance social capital and the community cohesion. However, as we all know, internal funding can also be limited because it can take a longer time to raise these funds through this internal resource. So this is also the internal funding during Samuel period from 71 to 79 was actually a community financing, as you can see on the right side of this table. The largest amount of finance were brought from the community finance. So when we look at the difference between the external funding and internal funding, they basically differentiate by objective and the priorities. Usually the external funders, they have their own specific objective or targets they want to achieve when they fund certain project in the village. But the internal funds, they have the internal community, they have usually their own basic needs that they experience through living in the village. The internal funding and external funding also can differentiate by controlling and ownership issues. So there is perception that the external funders bring expertise to the village, and the internal community may resist this external influence or control that comes from the external funders. So the other is, usually the external fundings are very specific and short. They have their own defined time framework, and once the project is finished, the funding may cease. And the internal funding, especially when sourced from community or activities or resource, may be more sustainable in the long term. And also, there is a rigidity of external funding. So external funders often come with strict guidelines and on their use of the fund, and make it less flexible to combine with the internal source of funding. So I want to introduce to you the project that was implemented in Ethiopia, which is called Participatory Forest Management in Mbonga, which is the southern part of Ethiopia. And this project came up as to address and minimize the decrease in forest coverage. And it was initiated by Farm Africa, which is a British non-profit organization with partnership with a local NGO. So this project was funded by Farm Africa and is a local NGO called SOS Sahel. And they played the leading role of establishing and funding this project. But over the years, other development agencies such as GIZ and GCAL joined. And this project actually promoted the decentralization of forest and the forest-based resources. And the project participates in the community from the planning to implementation stage. Though this project was funded by outsiders or the external funders, it ensured the participation of the villages from planning to implementation. So from this, we can draw that the extent in which external funding influence the ownership and the equity can depend on several factors. The first one can be the source of funding itself. As I mentioned before, the external funding can come from government, from international organizations and NGOs. So this type of the source can matter in terms of influencing the ownership and equity. And the other would be the project design and the implementation and the community involvement. As we saw in the case that I introduced earlier, the project was funded by outsiders, but it ensured the participation of the villages from the planning stage to implementation. The other is external funding can have positive impact on ownership and village development by ensuring their participation. However, most of the time, external funding can lead to a concentration of ownership of fields, and it can leave power in the few hands of few. This is often because external fundings, such as government and donors, have their own priorities and the agenda, as I mentioned before. So in the other way, I have also brought another topic, which is a villagization program in a Gambela region. And I think some of you may be aware of this project because it was popular at that time. It was in 1994, and again happened in 2012. And this program was a government-led program that was actually planned to reallocate people from disabled settlement into larger and decentralized villages. So the program was justified as a way to improve access to social and the infrastructure, such as school, healthcare, and roads. However, this program basically failed to promote ownership and equity in the village. So the program was designed and implemented by the government fully without little participation from the people who were being reallocated. So the villagization program, to a loss of ownership and equity, there are this certain reason. People who were forced to reallocate to villages were not suitable for farming, so that indicates that there was a pool planning. On the planning, the land was allocated to individual and the family. This indicated there was no equity. And the people from different ethnic groups and cultural groups were forced to live in a proximity area, which led to conflict later. And it was difficult for people to maintain their traditional culture and a tradition in the new village area. And this was the interview given by one of the leaders in the area. So after this, what are the factors that undermine the ownership in a village project? Firstly, the resource dependency. The reliance on external funding can create a sense of dependency among communities. So this can reduce their motivation to take ownership and the initiative in the development of projects. So as they expect internal source to provide resources. The other is, as I mentioned earlier, it was mismatched priorities. So international donors and NGOs may have their different priorities and perception from the local community. The other is a short-term focus, and top-down approach can also be negative. So how we can enhance community ownership and equity in externally funded village development project? Firstly, it is possible to establish a community development fund that is managed by the community and they used to finance development projects. The other would be development of a village investment plan that outlines village development priorities and identifies the potential source of funding. And also it is possible to create a PPP, public-private partnership, that bring together the public and the private funders. So what are the lessons we can draw from CEMOL actually during the 70s time? The first one would be burden sharing or diversifying funding sources. So as we all aware that CEMOL was funded by the combination of government, community contribution, and the loans. So this diversification of funding helped us to ensure the movement was not reliant on certain source of funding. The other would be the usage of funding effectively. So given the village were planned and prioritize their own projects, they were encouraged to identify the most important need in their community. And they also carefully considered the cost and the benefits of different projects. And they were monitoring and evaluation, and there was establishment of community funds. And we can also draw a lesson of capacity building. So during the CEMOL Undong in the 1970s, it was successful because it was provided village with training and support that they needed to manage funds effectively. The other lesson we can draw from CEMOL would be the importance of transparency and accountability in the usage of funds. So how is it possible to balance external and internal funding? So as I mentioned before, based on 1970s CEMOL experience in Korea, balance external and the internal funding seems to work well. So external funders provide the necessary boost for large projects or where expertise is needed, and while the internal funders can ensure that the projects are grounded in the community needs and aspiration. So we need a strategy of internalizing the external funds. So internalize how could it be happen? So internalization of external funding through microfinance or by coupling with a capacity building or income generating vocational training. So this idea is to use external fund, not just as a direct source of capital, but also as a catalyst to stimulate the local economic activities, self-sufficiency, and improvement. So what benefit we can get by doing that? There will be empowerment and ownership. By providing the initial capital and the training, villages would be empowered to start and expand their business. In a microfinance, there would be the revolving funds, which is the funds are returned and they can be relent to others. So to do that, we need to strengthen the microfinance. How is the microfinance different from other types of external funding? First, microfinance grants specifically aim to promote entrepreneurship and improve the economic condition of individuals within the community. And also, the microfinance differ from the other external funding by repayment and the sustainability and the impact they have on the village development. Also, they differ on the community involvement. So I've mentioned before that one of the negative impacts of external funding would be losing behind the community or not involving them in the planning and implementation. So microfinance often requires active participation from the community or from selecting beneficiaries to monitor repayment and offering support. And comparing to other external funding, microfinance is also flexible. But we need to consider the following challenges in order to make it happen, or in order to make internal funding, internalizing the external funding. So there would be initial assistance, especially in the area where the community had negative experience with the external intervention in the past. And also the management and the governance can be difficult, and the market access, while a vocational training can impart skills, there is a need to ensure that there is the market for the goods and the services produced, and we need to take into account also the external factors and the continuous monitoring. So this is all. Thank you so much.
Very good. I think it's time for the panelists to walk up to the stage and get ready. Okay. With almost about 20 minutes forfeited from the delays carried over from previous sessions, but thanks to the three presenters keeping to the time limit, it looks like we have almost about at least about 20 minutes or so left for panel discussions. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. On the tight time constraint, I've been trying to stick to this principle of MPTT, which means minimization of presider's talking time. So hopefully we could perhaps, have some time remaining for some lively and dynamic discussions with entertaining questions from the floor, okay? Okay, we have three scholars who will be serving as panelists. And first, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ki-soo Kim, Chair Professor with a special assignment at Yeongnam University. He's a former Dean of the PSPS. Sitting next to him is Muhammad Razak Umzaleh, from Tanzania, studying Semaul and International Development at Yeongnam University. And Butitepi Hor from Cambodia, studying Public Policy and Leadership at Yeongnam. Okay, Dr. Kim, if you're ready.
Good afternoon, everybody. Since we don't have much time for discussions, I just want to focus on main characteristics of Semaul because all three presenters tried to apply some components of Semaul for their own project. But to do that, you have to really understand the main principles of Semaul very clearly. So in that sense, even though we don't have much time, I try to focus just a few important components of Semaul. Semaul is different from other community development programs in the way programs are implemented rather than the programs themselves. That's why the Semaul can be applied in 21st century today, because regardless of a program you are implementing, still Semaul can be applied because the Semaul is focusing on how those programs are implemented rather than specific programs implemented in 1970s in Korea. So let me briefly focus on just a few of main principles of Semaul so that you may get some implications to apply for your own development. So first of all, Semaul focus on mainly on changing people's mindset, first of all, and developing self-confidence, as well as building capacity, and eventually developing ownership so that the programs can be more sustainable. So that is the core components of Semaul. So to achieve that goal, Semaul introduced so many different the programs together to achieve that one goal. For example, Semaul used a match system in which government never provided the full support to village development. All the time, the village people should contribute some of they have to make a sum of contributions, a labor contribution or financial contribution, etc., so that people can have the ownership. So if the people, they don't make commitment to the certain projects, it's very difficult to develop ownership. So government made people contribute something to achieve, to complete the program, labor or financial support. So according to the data, in 10 years of the Semaul implementation from 1971 to 1979, in the average, 49% of the project's resource or financing came from people's own resources, not fully supported by a government. So it tells a lot to us because without contributing, without contribution of people, participating people, it's very difficult to develop people's ownership. And a few, Chawananga talked about the sustainability, and also the Guru Abraham, he talked about the ownership and equity. I think those are interrelated because to make any project sustainable, you have to develop people's ownership, and just ownership is not enough. Even though you have ownership, if you don't have money, you cannot make your project sustainable. So therefore, equity fund is very important as well. And the other one is capacity. You have to have also capacity. So if you study in Semaul, all those things were very a lot of different programs are related or interconnected to achieve that goal. For example, education to build the capacity, and others like the partnership and the cooperative governance, which also contributed in developing people's capacity. There were many different programs were implemented when 새마을운동 was implemented in 1970s, but I just want to focus on two different programs which contributed a lot in developing people's ownership as well as the fund for the sustainable development. Those were saving and reinvestment program. And another one is 새마을 credit cooperatives. So by utilizing those programs, people could save a village fund so that they could have enough fund to sustain their project. And another one is 새마을 credit cooperative. By using 새마을 credit cooperative, they could effectively manage those village funds so that they can have more and more money to make the projects expanded. So those are some characteristics of or main principles of 새마을운동, I think. And most of developing programs were adopted the top-down design system or approach, but in 새마을운동, we adopted the top-down and bottom-up approach. So that is also a very important part to work together with the people. And as the Guru Abraham introduced, sometimes when external fund is provided, they don't care much about the actual needs of village or community people. So to avoid such situation, I think it is important to create their own village fund so that they can focus on the projects that they want to implement. And the last one I want to focus is the 새마을운동 is the truly community-based development. So it's not individual-based development, or it is not the province-based development. So it focuses on a village, so that if a village becomes richer, and then all the participating village people becomes richer. That is the logic of 새마을운동. So the unit of development in 새마을운동 was a village. So not individually developing their own household, but focusing on making village better, or making village a better place to live. And then all the participating, the village people, they can get the benefit. That was the idea. So I think some of these, because we have time constraints, I cannot, I have a lot to talk about. I think I have to stop here. So if you have more interest, and then I'm happy to share my ideas with you in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kim. Mr. Razak Mzale, if you're ready.
Hello. Okay. First, I'd just like to thank everyone that presented today. Even though all the presenters had their own individual topics, I think they all focused on the concept of how we can make a project sustainable in the long term, whether through finance, rural community development, or the other factors that were mentioned. Firstly, to begin, I would like to first commend Chawananga on his presentation. If you look at page 261 at the bottom and 262, when he compared how rural development is currently being done in case of Malawi and how it should be done, I think it hit home for many of us that are coming from developing countries, and I found it to be something that I could relate to, and I think a lot of people from developing countries can understand that. Also, I'm glad that the topic of long-term sustainability in projects is finally becoming a recurring theme, because most of us here from developing countries, I think we've either been practitioners, benefactors, or even witnesses of development projects in our communities. And we've all seen the case where they come with good intentions, they have the finances, they do capacity building, the training, everything is going well. But then once the project ends and they go home and it's now time for the rural community themselves to take over, it just ends. So I'm glad that this is becoming a topic that we're looking at and trying to find a way to solve. Also on the issue of agriculture, I would also like to comment, but it's almost kind of a question. He had to kind of rush through, but I saw in the documentation that Chawa recommended diversification of agricultural products for the rural community in Malawi. I just want to emphasize that I agree with that, and to give the example of Korea, where they invested a lot of R&D, research and development, on developing Tongul rice that was able to handle the harsh climate of Korea at the time, and to this day, well, we all know how influential rice has become here. So it's something that I think is regularly underestimated, how much research and R&D needs to go into agriculture, especially since most of us here from Africa, we know that agriculture is a big part of our economy, so it's worthwhile investing. Thirdly, in terms of long-term sustainability, I just want to add on some points that I think were just either left out or for lack of time. I think if you don't handle the mental reform of the rural community, then it doesn't matter what you bring to the table. If the people themselves don't believe that they can reach development, you can have the perfect project, the perfect research, but if the people themselves who have to take over at the end believe that we can't do this, then when you go, it will fail. This is my humble opinion, by the way. I'm not stating this as fact, but this is what I think is the reason why when some really good projects end, the community fail to take over. So I'm glad that we're talking about the can-do mentality. Also, another factor that's difficult to discuss is the difference between the foundation that Korea had to establish Semal Undong versus most African countries, where Korea had a very active government. In fact, Semal Undong was almost like a policy of Park Chung-hee's administration, whereas most African countries, we have the challenge of the government actually being an obstacle to Semal Undong. So how do we deal with that? Most of the time when you ask someone from Africa, like, why don't you just go get a degree and then go into government and try to change things? And it would be great if we could do that, but the challenge that most people don't understand is that you would not. Most of the governments in developing countries were taken control of by the Revolutionary Party, the one that got them out of colonization. So if you were to go there, you would go against their plan and have to convince them to change, and that can be very difficult. So not to sound, I'm going to give you some insight here that I think might motivate, because I think I'm being too depressing so far. What I think can help is that even though as an individual we might have a trouble to change the government and to change policy, we cannot underestimate the power of the community themselves and also the power of media. Chawa mentioned recognition and rewards for Semal Undong, which was part of the Semal Undong campaign, but I would like to add on that media can also be used as a very strong bargaining tool to get government to do things that they otherwise might not have been motivated to do. We've seen today how media has a very strong influence on culture, on dialogue, and even on elections. So if you're able to get the media on your side, which I think is much easier than changing a party, then that could possibly be a pathway to convince public institutions to support your project. And that's my recommendation. Also, just to reiterate his quote, I 100% agree. I forgot who said it, but if you want to see a bright future, you have to be the one to create it. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Razak, for your insightful and enlightening thoughts, sharing them with us.
Okay, so thank you
yes.
for, I think today I have learned a lot from the three presenters, and all of you have done a good job, and I think today I have learned so much, and thank you. You have shined my eye a lot on the Semalundong and Vietnam economic, and also on how the external and internal funding works. So far I'm here, I think I am master degree student. I don't have so much comment to give because I think I still have many implications and still lacking a lot of things. So I prefer to learn more and humbly receive more comment and to give the questions. So for me, I think Professor Kim and Razak already provide a lot of comment which matching with the idea I also want to provide. So I am more on to recap what I have understand, and I try to address more as a person, also the one that come from the developing country. So I think from the part that Gutu present is really helpful, and if you try to pay more attention to it, it's really help you a lot, especially when you want to go back to your country and make any project to develop your community. For example, like the dynamic interplay between the external and internal funding in village development is very critical. It strikes the balance that the community to maintain the series of ownership and equity while also benefiting from external resource, which means that most of our developing country heavily rely on the external funding rather than, have your own leadership and the ownership of equity. So the part that Gutu highlights on the internalization, I think it really hits best, which every one of us should take note on this, and maybe if we can research more how to apply it in our country context. And especially when he also addressed on the case study from Semalundong and compared to the internal and external funding, well, the Semalundong, I think, is the very well successful and well-structured rural development program from South Korea, where the external and internal funding from the government promote the internal resource, not only the funding, but they also promote the sense of equity and ownership, that they want to change the mindset of the villager, where they want them to be heavily rely on themselves, self-help, diligence, and cooperation. So as a policymaker and government from most developing countries, we should follow the model of Semalundong, and also at the same time taking the advice from Gutu on the internal and external funding internalization to be creatively combined in our rural development project, where we want to hinder the sense of ownership from them, instead to make them rely on the source of fund or from the government or NGO, and they don't take any initiative side from themselves. And the other thing is that I also want to ask to Gutu at the same time. I like your slide a lot. It really impressed me. The question that I want to ask to Gutu is that since the world is growing every day, as you can see today, we heavily rely on the technology. So as a speaker, do you think technology and innovation can be leveraged to enhance the role of external and internal funding or resourcing in village development or not, and why? And also, I also want to share some comment with Dr. Don from Vietnam. I also find your presentation also impressed me a lot, because we share the same border, and Vietnam right now developed so far, and and even Vietnam currently also achieved the poverty index, where they only have merely 6.2%, while Cambodia is still far behind, around 16%. So as Dr. Don focusing on where he said the new rural development in Vietnam that differentiate from Semalundong. So I want to pose a question to you. Can you provide a case study of challenges or struggling of Vietnam on how to promoting people's initiative in building new rural areas? Because to me, I think it's pretty hard to promote the sense of leadership. As a Cambodia, as a developing country, I also want to know, as we share the border and our country, we share similarity in social and psychological problems. So I think that's it. Thank you.
The remarks presented by the three panelists are mostly comments, but Pati just asked two of our presenters, I understand. Gutu, would you respond to her question first? Gutu?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So Tepi asked two questions. First one is like with internal, how we can apply internal funding sources in a village development when the communities varies in income levels. That can be challenging, but through the community engagement and the participation in the decision making, as we saw in some cases, the case that I introduced in my presentation, and also through capacity building and social inclusion, it is possible to enhance the sense of ownership and ensure equitable development. Secondly, she asked about the role of technology in what type of role can technology play in enhancing the role of funding. I think the technology can play a crucial role in enhancing the effectiveness of both internal and external funding. But how is the question? I think is we need information. So through technology, I think we can able to access to information, and it can also help to connect villages to a large market. And also, as we have observed from the first morning presentation, the technology can also help to connect villagers with the government officials and also with communities themselves. Yeah, that is so. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dong Quang Hui, would you respond? Okay.
So, first of all, thank you very much for the very valuable comment. And I think that I also have the same idea with all of you. First about the question, actually when we implement the new rural development, we also got a lot of challenge. And let me give you a cases. In Kabang province, we also have a product we call is the Thach An. It's kind of the very fresh drink. And important that we want to make this brand become the community brand. But unfortunately, one another private companies, they also register this name as their products. So it's a little very conflict in the ownership, and we got a lot of problem to solve this problem, because we also need to claim that, okay, this private company do is not good follow our law, because this one is kind of the community brand, so we need to take it, right? So we also have a lot of conversation and also a lot of dispute and discussion about it, and finally, we are also willing to take the Thach An brand to the community. It's also a lot of challenge, but I hope that it's not happen in the future, because if not, we will cost a lot of the money and also the time for this. And regarding to how to make someone better in the future, I think that all the way we have 3 steps. The first one that we need to change the people mindset. I mean the farmers, the poor people, they need to understand that if they want to become richer, the more important about themselves. They need to try their much efforts. Because if they don't try, so nobody can help them, right? Because if we provide the financial support, and then kind of support is very good for them in the very beginning step, but then later they need to solve a problem by themselves. And you know, according to a lot of the economic theories, that we can only develop by on our own resources. So, for example, Samuel and Undong and another project, we support them, but more important, to change the people mindset. And the second step that we need to teach them how to do business, how to do the problem. And the last one that we need to support some products for the development, for example, like infrastructure or living method. In Vietnam right now, a lot of the area we got a problem that we don't know how to make the business and products. Even we have a lot of the good thing in the natural resources and also for the potential product. So it's a lot of challenge. And actually, the Samoan Foundation in Vietnam, they're so working so hard to solve this problem, and together with our government. But I would say that I come from very first idea that the most important is the people. They need to do their most effort for this. Right? Without it, we can do anything.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chawanakam, would you also have a response to? Just briefly.
Just briefly.
Yeah.
Just a take home from Professor Kim Kisu on not diversification, but on the capacity building and match system, granting match system. The project that I actually cited, it's actually fortunate enough capitalizing on that. As I mentioned, these farmers are able to, come up with their own ideas and see how they can be helped by government and World Bank. On Yurazaki's comment on the usage of media, I've also noticed that there's a loophole back in my country, because now these projects are being implemented and these policies are being made, but on the part of disseminating information creatively, just like maybe Semaundong was being done, we've been lacking on that. So as someone who is studying Semau, I would need to maybe consult these policymakers to maybe rectify on that one. Otherwise, the maximizing of mental reform is also a challenge, and as a country, back in my country, we need to also work on that. Other than that, thank you so much, the panelists.
Very good. Maybe we have just a little bit of time left, so we could entertain some questions from the floor. Okay, there's why don't you step up to the standing microphone over there, and tell us who you are, what country you're from first.
My name is Jerry Selassie Sifa. I'm a Ghanaian, and I'm a student at the Park Juhi School of Policy and SMO at Yongnam University. My question goes to Professor Duan Kwan Hue. Yes, in one of your slides, you compared the program in Vietnam with that of Semo Undun. And whilst you were presenting, I was trying to put everything within a certain framework, which I believe is the building blocks of Semo Undun. Incremental implementation of the projects, active participation, and then mental reformation. So in terms of the incremental implementation of the project, you did mention you piloted the project. With regards to participation, you didn't really touch on the specific things that you did to encourage participation. For Semo Undun, we knew what the government did and what the locals also did. But in your case, I think I would like to know more about what exactly you did or you are doing to encourage active participation. And then with regards to the last building block, as indicated here, you've mentioned spirit of self-reliance, and that has run through your comments. So if I may ask, how did you come about the self-reliance? Because I know that for the spirits of Semo Undun was informed or inspired by programs that had preceded Semo Undun. So in your case, how did you arrive or how did you settle on the self-reliance? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for a very interesting question. First of all, I would say that I wish I have more time for my presentation to deliver my message, because you know that it's a lot of issue and a lot of information, but also very limited time. Regarding to the question, how the Samoan Undong Foundation in Vietnam engage with Vietnam government, also a very interesting question. Actually, we also have a lot of we call that a collaboration project And we also have a lot of the discussion about how to make the community better, because we know that the resources from both sides also very limited. So Seman Undong in Vietnam, I would say that Seman Undong representative of Vietnam will be the best person to answer this question. But according to my understanding, that they're also working so hard with government to find the area that they can do the best and how to help them. Because you know that our program, I mean the new rural development program, is so very meta program. So in some points that we also have some weakness, and also it's not really at our expected. And some in Undong, we can discuss with Vietnam government and support this area. For example, in Thái Nguyên City, we also have an aid project from somewhere in Undong that support the people in Thái Nguyên a lot. And as a second question, how to improve the spirit of the poor people? I would say that's a very difficult question, because we have combined with a lot of the way. For example, like we can have some like intensive discussion with them, and even we also some very successful model to help them to understand that they can change by themselves, right? I mean, the more important for the people, why they don't change their mindsets, because first they don't understand that the benefit to change the mindset, and second thing that they don't know how to change it. So as our expert and also the project leader, we try our best to make them to understand that they can do that. I mean, don't think just do, but they can do, and after that we try to provide them some, for example, like technical support, or even try to find some external sources to support them, and also try to contact with the government to support a specific area to make them become better. I think that is kind of the combination, and it's kind of the joint effort from both the farmer, the poor people, the expert, and also the government. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, maybe we could take just one more short question. If you really feel you don't think you're going to have a good sound sleep tonight without throwing this question or comment at them, then raise your hand. If not, maybe we should get ready to head to the dining hall before we get on the bus. Would that be fine? Okay. You can grab them when you have lunch, when you have a dinner, to ask questions that you can address them now. Okay, everybody. One of the main goals of Semaul Undong is to raise average per person income. And one of the key goals of this symposium, I think, is to raise average knowledge or understanding or insight on Semaul Undong. So in that sense, I feel that goal has been achieved. If you agree with me, why don't you give ourselves a big round of applause, everybody? Thank you very much. This wraps up the forum for today. And tomorrow, okay, we could look forward to the presence of Dr. Choi, our president at the Yeongnam, and the governor of the province will be here as well. And some of the tents that you saw over there outside were empty today, but tomorrow is the weekend, so I'm sure it will be filled in full operation tomorrow, so you look forward to that also. Thank you all very much.
감사합니다. 네, 정말
Thank you very much. It was indeed the best possible final session of the day. Thank you very much to our moderator, our speakers, and our discussants. Another round of applause, please. So it goes beyond knowing, but rather this session enabled us to look for even the better. And so this actually brings us to the end of the first day of the forum. Allow me to introduce tomorrow's agenda to you. From 11 o'clock until 12 o'clock, we have an opening ceremony outside in the square. And then from 12:20 until 12:30, we will be listening to the remarks by the governor of Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Then you will enjoy your lunch. And then from 2:30, we will be inviting the president of Yeongnam University for his keynote presentation. During the afternoon, we will take a look at youth in Semaul Undong, and during session 6, we will take a look at Semaul Global Competition by inviting video participation for the competition. So we look forward to your active participation until the very end. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am Lee Song-hee. Thank you very much.